Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever been on the desert trek? What is a desert trek? It's where there are 700 people that were trying to get across the desert in a 4-day period. Why would anybody in their right mind would go out and do such a thing when the temperature was 0 degrees at night and 40 degrees during the day? With 8 to 10 hours walking time, day? And what a check every hour? I thought I was doing this for fun, for challenge, and for experience. But you will come to know in a short amount of time that I learned some other incredible lessons. Let me tell you about the journey now. We started on day 1. We were all enthusiastic. We were all excited. And we were all naive. But we started out together. The total distance was 108 kilometers. No idea how far it is? It's the distance between Steveston to Whistler. And what are the territories like? They're various. Sands, rocks, Jordans, which was the bare earth after wind erosion. Now, walking in sands, we spend 3 to 5 times energy compared to walking on a city road. You can see this picture. This one is the day that we get started. Then, everybody, 3 to 5 times energy compared to what we walk on a city road. Have you ever been like a long distance? Anybody have a long distance walking? I have a question for you. Anybody? How far is the furthest one? Yes. Sorry? 30 kilometers. 10 kilometers. Okay. Thank you. So 108 kilometers walking in the desert. That gave me incredible lessons. What we can see is from the sands, the distance, and some lessons that I learned from this 4-day, 3 nights desert trek. In the daytime, physically, the most enjoyable time was when we arrived at the campsite at the end of every day. Muscle massage, stretching, life storytelling between buddies, and star watching at night enriched every single night. And still physically, the most challenging time was during the day. However, there are some amazing moments that I want to share with you. Let's talk about the living condition in the desert. We stayed in the huge tent, which contained 15 people. So we arranged men on one side and women on the other. And there's no shower for the whole 4 days. Can you imagine that? At night, the temperature dropped down to 0 degrees. And the wind whipped the tent. And flapped. And they were howling all night long. If you could imagine that a consistent, persistent, and never-ending howling all night long. What's that like? It's like you were in the movie and you're sitting at the front row and the speaker was just next to you. And how many of you could fall asleep under that situation? In the desert, there is no Facebook, no Instagram, no WeChat, nothing. We were in no man's zone. That means 95% of the area had no cell phone signal coverage. Can you imagine that the whole week that you don't have a cell phone? Then what you gotta do? And for me, there is one thing that I learned, which is being present. What is being present? It means you consciously aware of where you are, what's happening around, and what you do at that moment. How many of you had experience that you forgot whether you've locked your car or it's your entrance door after you just do it? And how many of you had experience that when friends asking you, how are you doing, you answer with the good without really thinking about it? In this age, we're not present. We're not present with our friends. We're not present with our family. We're not even present with ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not present with ourselves. Then I start to think, as I talk to my family, I wasn't really there with them. Although I was trying to get somewhere with them or for them, but I was not in that moment. And here, I saw 3 main things. Number 1, being with your family. Being with your family. I mean, really being with them. Before, you were facing to your phone when you're talking to your family. And now, put the phone down and talk to your family with your eye contact. And before, you were eager to talk too much to end the conversation. Now, give some patience to listen. Number 2, being with yourself. Nowadays, we are packed with schedules, schools, tasks. What we most wanted is how quick we can make them done. Then we go to the next job. And now, stop a little bit and be aware of where you are. To feel it. Give you some time to calm, to meditate, to feel that moment, what you feel at that moment. For example, tonight, you spent hours here. When we got home, ask yourself a question. What did I learn tonight? What's the best part that got me? And am I the person that the speaker was talking about? From now on, create a self-talk habit. And number 3, being with the environment. We are too busy to be aware what's happening around. Even we see it, we don't feel it. Let me give you an example. Before you go to school with a bus, then normally you sit down and put the earbuds on. And that's your focus for the whole trip. But today, you put the earbuds down, and you realize that there's a little girl sitting in front of you. She's making a phone call to her parents overseas. And you find she's homesick. And suddenly you realize there is something you can do to make her feel better. With this example, you may say, oh, a small thing. Yes, it is. But this time, you'll feel it. Let's go back to the desert story. How many of you want to know how people in the desert go to bathroom? Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, that's 700 people. Can you imagine that 700 people go to the bathroom? Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine if you were in the desert, you can see everything from the horizon, from 0 to 180. That means you have nowhere to hide. So we have a rule. So from the marching direction, left side is for men only. And the right side is for women. And nobody will go to the wrong side. Even though we have this rule, but I still got concerns. Oh. So what would I do? I just drank very less water and try not to go to the bathroom that soon. Can you imagine that I drank less water in the desert just because I didn't want to be seen when I pee-pee? After hours, I fell into dehydration. And I felt sick, and I questioned myself if I could make that day. But suddenly, I found where the problem is. It's on me. It's my self-overestimation. That means I subconsciously thought that everybody's putting focus on me. Even when I go to pee-pee, they still want to watch me. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you have similar situation when you want to do something? You have too many concerns about what other people will think about you. How many of you have this similar situations? Thank you. When you think too much, you will stop doing this. For example, you sign up a speech contest, and you really want to give everybody the best of yourself. But when you stand on the stage, you start asking yourself, questions. Do I look good today? How can I stop being nervous? What if I make mistakes? And will they laugh at me? How can I avoid making all the mistakes? If you have this experience, you will know when you try to go out of your comfort zone, you naturally create imaginations that will make us fail. That will pull you back. And it will delay your action. And the more you think, the more delays you have. However, once you do it, you will find it's much easier than you thought. Let's take a closer look. If you go to a public speaking, and you're on site, do you notice that people's performance are getting better and better from the beginning? As to the desert trek, this experience is life-changing for me. 4 days in the desert with no cell phone signal created a chance that I can learn what is being present. And 4 days in the desert with no public washroom taught me a lesson of self-overestimation. Most importantly, it started with a change. The change of the experience. And this experience will be leading my life as a light tower. Now, my audience, what experience that you are going to change today? Thank you.